Okay, we're live and I'm gonna hit the recording and then hand you over to be the host, Michael.
Thank you.
You're now the host, Michael.
Okay. As an introduction, this is a village board work session, and it's a presentation by Real Term Energy, and Paul Vessel is our guest. But before we start with the meeting, let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Michael, I've got a flag right here on my screen.
Oh, very good. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome, Paul. I'm Mayor Newhart, and I think you've spoken with Trustee Cheney, and this is George McManus, one of the trustees.
Good morning, everybody. Nice to meet you. So as Barry had requested, I'll give a brief presentation first, including the preliminary calculations that we did on the project. Barry, you have those numbers, right, which we sent a while ago?
Yes.
And then we'll leave most of the session open for discussion and questions and answers. So let me share my screen with you. It says host has disabled participant screen sharing. I'm not able to get access.
Okay, I'm searching that. Does that do it?
Let me try again. It's still disabled. All right, you're sharing your screen.
Let me just refer to Mary Ann. Mary Ann, I can't seem to get him the ability to share the screen.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm sharing that.
How this get to be so small?
No, because I was sharing the screen.
You're trying to get Paul to share the
Yes.
screen?
Yeah, Mary, it says it's disabled.
I need to get to the Zoom. I don't know why this won't go bigger. I don't know why it's doing this. You can't even make it bigger. I don't want to quit it either. Oh, there it is. Optimize for video clip. So they see your screen, right?
Yes.
So share, and you want him to share,
Mhm.
be able to share his,
Mhm.
right? No, stop. No. Now try, Paul.
Okay.
Here we go.
Here we go.
Sorry, a minute.
No, it's okay.
Can
You all
everybody
set?
hear?
Yep.
Want me to hang out just a little bit more?
No, well, just a few minutes. more.
Okay, I'll do it silent.
Yeah, thanks.
All right, can everybody,
Okay.
is everybody seeing the first slide?
Yes.
All right, great. All right. So I think everybody knows, what's driving this decision to take a look at doing a streetlight conversion, as many municipalities throughout the Northeast and throughout the country have undertaken. Um, when you move from your existing streetlight infrastructure to an LED conversion, you're going to realize significant savings, both in terms of energy and in terms of costs uh, with that conversion. Your maintenance costs are going to drop dramatically because these lights last a lot longer and require a lot less maintenance than your existing infrastructure. This is just an overview of the different services that we offer. Outdoor lighting really is our mainstay. That's we've done upwards of about 325 municipal projects. 95% of them have been in the Northeast. So this is the executive summary of the preliminary analysis that we did on your project. We call it a desktop study because we haven't been out in the field yet. Typically, we're within about 10% accuracy, 10% deviation when we move from this desktop study to the final analysis, or what we call the investment grade audit. So we took a look at your inventory and your streetlight bills, and based on that, and based on the different projects that we've done in O&R territory, we projected an estimated project cost of 160,000, and projected acquisition. When we talk about acquisition, that's the projected cost to buy your streetlights from O&R. Remind me, Barry, what if anything have you done vis-a-vis O&R on the buyback side?
Yes, we have gotten the letter from them, and they have given us a cost for purchase. That cost is $203,691. So that's
Okay.
what you got there. You're showing that cost.
All right. So right. So we had that.
And that was for 461 lights. You're showing 404. And I know that what you'd given a month or so back, you'd given two analyses, and one was for 461 and one was for 404. So
Right. I believe it was because you already had uh, 57 lights which were converted to LED.
oh, okay.
So we can take a look at that again. There are some municipalities that want uniformity when we do the conversion. So even though the lights were recently converted, they want to make sure that they're done in the same way that we do the rest of your lights, or we can do it this way. Typically, what we'll do is if O&R has already done some lights, we'll take a look and see what they've done. We'll see how far off it is from from what we would recommend. And if we feel like it's far off, we'd recommend you converting them again. All right. So this is what the overall numbers look like on the project. Looking at a payback period of 5.5 years and a 20-year projected savings of $1.2 million. We run this on a 20-year time horizon because the life of these LED fixtures is projected at 100,000 hours. They call it an L70 rating, which means at 100,000 hours, or about 23.9 years, on the average, 30% of the diodes will have failed. So it's not like the lights wouldn't work, but they'd be at 70% efficiency at 23 years. So we run a 20-year model on the project. So when we look at your estimated savings, we're breaking your bills down. You'll see the biggest savings that takes place, and the reason why so many municipalities in New York State and elsewhere are taking ownership of their streetlights. The delivery charges, which are pretty onerous when the utility owns your streetlights, they drop dramatically when it moves from a utility-owned infrastructure to a municipal-owned infrastructure. In your case, that number goes down from close to $60,000 to $4,000 a year, right? Without bashing the utilities, you know, they provide a much needed service, and they're a very necessary player within the municipal space. But you know, they're a for-profit enterprise, and streetlights have been a very profitable business for them for a number of years. So you'll save quite a bit if and when you take ownership of those streetlights. We've estimated what your maintenance costs. Right now, it's listed as zero on the baseline, and that's only because the utilities don't break out what your maintenance costs are. But we estimated what your maintenance costs would be when you take ownership of the streetlights. And this number is based on a lot of experience. We've done about 350,000 conversions over the last 8 years, and we got a pretty solid idea on what the cost is to maintain those fixtures once they're converted, right? So that gives you an overall reduction of close to 80% in your streetlight expenditures from where you are today to where you would be if you took ownership and then converted those streetlights. Another way to look at it, quick snapshot, project cost and payback period again. When we talk about net project cost, that's the cost to do the project plus the cost to acquire those fixtures. Now, if you were to finance the project, which Michael did in the town with a lease financing, you could roll in the cost of acquisition from O&R into the financing. And most of our clients do that. We gave you an option, since a lot of our clients in the last year and a half, I'd say about 85–90% of the projects that we've done have incorporated smart controls. Barry, I think you and I had a little conversation on that. I'll inform the board. Essentially, this has been a big change in the streetlight technology space over the last 2 years, 2.5 years. Going back 2.5 years, smart controls were fairly expensive, and though they have a lot of benefits, because of the cost, a lot of the municipalities did not incorporate them into the projects. Now that cost has gone down roughly from $250 a pole to less than $100 a pole, it adds on just a few months on your payback period, and the benefits are pretty broad. When you have smart controls, it gives you the ability to dim and trim those lights either on an individual light basis, on a particular street, or municipal wide. So a lot of municipalities will gradually dim those lights as the night goes on, from like 11 p.m. or midnight through the night and through the dawn. So you're saving energy. In New York State, they have not passed legislation yet that will mandate the utilities to give you metered billing, which means you would save not only energy but money. That trend is really starting to pick up across the country. In Massachusetts, for example, they passed that legislation a year and a half ago. So cities and towns in Massachusetts, when they lower those light levels, National Grid and Eversource, the two main utilities there, are obliged then to meter those changes and to reduce their bill accordingly. I can't guarantee that's going to happen or when it's going to happen. It just looks like it's likely to happen. So moving that aside, the qualitative benefits of the smart controls are, from a service aspect, you are now proactive rather than reactive. Today the only way you know that your light is out is somebody can visibly inspect it. With smart controls, they actually send a signal via your cellular network, so you know when the light's out, and you even know when that light is failing. So we or whoever it is that you would contract maintenance from could provide much more expeditious service on those lights, and also do the repairs in a much more efficient way. So you can group lights, not have a truck roll come out for every individual light. And so traditionally your maintenance costs are going to go down, your service levels will go up, and it also gives you the ability, should constituents complain about lighting levels, whoever it is in Warwick that's tasked with supervising the lights, they'll have the ability on their phone or from their computer or from their iPad to make any changes on the fly. So Mr. Smith is complaining, hey, these lights seem a little bit too bright for us. Can you dim them down, or can you program them to dim down? And you can do that very easily. So this is our approach. Really, the foundation of any well-done streetlight project rests in the audit. So we'll start your project, and there'll be a few points during the project where there'll be some involvement from the municipality, and this is one of them. So before we send our folks out in the field, we'll want to sit down with somebody who's knowledgeable about your lighting and let us know where the problem areas. Hey, this particular intersection we think is overlit or it's underlit. We want you to pay particular attention. We've got a school over here. Lighting is really important there, or a park. So that's sort of localized information that we can only get from you. We'll want to know before we actually go out into the field and do the audit. We'll do that audit physically, pole by pole. Really critical in your case, or anybody who's looking to buy your streetlights, because you want to make sure you know what you're buying. I can share with you that with the 300 and plus projects that we've completed, we have never, I repeat, never received an inventory from the utility which was accurate. And it's not that they do a bad job. It's just that lights are replaced often during a storm. It's often old infrastructure, so it's not accurate, and you need accuracy to make sure that your database and you know what you're buying. So we're not only verifying that the lights are there, but we're taking elements and characteristics from that light that's going to be important for us to give you proper lighting. So in addition to the location and the ownership, we're looking at a series of different attributes, including the height of the fixture, the offset from the curb, the roadway classification, the width of the street, the distance between the poles. And all of this data then goes into a very sophisticated photometric modeling program that we use to make sure we get the lighting right. You, like everybody else, you're overlit and you're underlit and you're not optimally lit. So as long as you're going to take the time and the energy to convert your lights to LED technology, it completely makes sense for you to improve your lighting, give you more secure lighting and more adequate lighting throughout Warwick. We were recognized by the World Bank a year and a half ago. Very proud of that recognition as being the best practices for doing municipal lighting projects in the U.S. and around the world. It's really where we set ourselves aside from most of the people who do this sort of work, regardless of the size of the project. And we're really focused. Most of our projects have been small and mid-sized communities like yours. So there are folks out there that have done Chicago and New York, done more lights than we have, but we've probably done more municipalities in North America because we're really focused on the small, mid-sized jobs. And we approach every job the same. We're going to do a customized, unique street-by-street lighting design for Warwick. So that means that as we're moving through the municipality, everywhere we find a street that's markedly different from any of the previous streets that we've designed, either the pole spacing is different or the height of the fixtures are different, that calls for a new design. So you're going to get the lighting footprints that you need for the particular intersections that you have, the lighting levels and the lumen counts that you need, and everything will be customized. So your lighting and the final solution will be optimized. And that usually represents increased savings for you. So you may not need on street type C a 100% 100% on your lumens for those fixtures that are selected. The proper lighting and lumens on the ground might be 70%. And so everything will be adjusted accordingly. Color temperature is another important thing. We'll make sure that you get the color temperatures that you're looking for. Typically 3000 Kelvin has been the trend over the last 2 years. That's moved down from 4000 with concerns that people had about blue light exposure. So you're not sacrificing light and safety. We design everything for that color temperature. But most communities are looking for sort of a softer, not so bright white light, which was delivered by the previous 4000 Kelvin color temperature. Dark skies are important for most of the jobs that we've done in New York State and in Maine and in Massachusetts. So we pay careful attention to make sure that your skies are as dark as they can be, with little or no light loss into the atmosphere or on the ground, and little or no glare. So they're safer for both pedestrians and vehicular traffic. This was another reason why the World Bank recognized us for best practices. We have a very meticulous and detailed methodology for selecting the right technology for your project. We're completely agnostic. Some people, when we start to converse with them, they're not sure, who we are, what we do. What we're not is we're not an equipment manufacturer. So we're an integrator, which means we do turnkey projects. We select the most appropriate luminaires for your project, and we select the most appropriate electrical contractor. So here, what you see is our methodology for selecting the right fixture. We're looking typically at 3 criteria, which we weigh in different ways, and you'll have input on how we weigh those. You may say, you know what, we want cost to be weighed a little bit higher than net present value or photometrics. So once we establish what the weights of those criteria are, and we provide all the specifications to the bidders, it'll be competitively bid. We'll do our analysis, we'll do our scoring, and we'll recommend to you, based on that, what we think is the optimal, most appropriate fixture for your project. Everything that we do in the project, you have final say on. So, we're assuming you're hiring us because we know more about this stuff than you do. But you may say, you know what, thanks guys, we like your analysis, but you chose Acuity. We like the Cree fixture because it's a little bit more rounded, and aesthetically we like the looks a little bit more, and so that's the one we want to go with. And that's perfectly fine. And we've had municipalities make those changes based on aesthetics, and we can do that. Likewise, on the contracting side, we'll ask you, and often municipalities will want a local electrical subcontractor to be included in the bidding process. And everything's open book, by the way. So we will share with you everything that we do on this e-bidding portal. All the tenders will be published, all the questions and responses, all the warranty and delivery claims. You'll have access to this portal, so you'll see all the processes and the bidding and the results as they take place. So likewise with the equipment, we'll make our recommendation, and likewise with the equipment, you'll have final say. So we've had a situation in Maine, for example, where their local contractor came out higher than everybody else. We didn't recommend them, but because of the relationship they had with the shop, they said, you know what, we prefer to pay more and work with these folks, and we like the work they do. And of course, you know, that's their prerogative, as it will be yourselves. So the way we structure all our projects, and this is based on when New York State opened up the opportunity for municipalities to buy back their streetlights from the utilities, we consulted with the New York State Comptroller's office and had a memorandum written up based on New York State procurement law and how our clients would be able to contract those services from us without going out for a formal RFP. And so the way we've structured our contracts and our services with you is this document, the investment grade audit, is the inflection point in the project where you now have all of the results of the bids, of all the designs, the photometrics. You'll see the final numbers, which again, as I mentioned before, will be probably within 10% of the report that I showed you. And it's only at that point where you make a decision on whether or not to move towards procurement on both the labor and the materials. Again, this is all based on New York State law. So you contract us based on professional services. Labor and materials are bid out competitively, transparently, and on an open book basis. We agree on a gross margin. Typically, we work with 17 to 20%. And then all the numbers come in, and we have those numbers for this investment grade audit. If for whatever reason, once we deliver to you the investment grade audit, you don't want to continue with the project, you can exit the project and terminate the agreement, and your only exposed capital was what you spent on doing the audit. Everything we do, and again, this is the reason why the World Bank recognizes us, is based on transparency. So this tool here, this app here that you see, is another way for you to log into the project as it's progressing, and you can see exactly where we are. This is where our crews are. This is where we are compared to budget in terms of time and money. If there's any issues on depletion of things like wiring and fusing, all that is nicely graphed. And whoever it is, again, from your side that you've tasked with taking a look and supervising the project, will be able to report back to you in real time by accessing the project and visualizing where we are with the project. And then lastly, maintenance services. Many of our clients, many of whom are much larger than Warwick. We've done projects as small as 17 lights and as large as 45,000. In most cases in the Northeast, where municipalities are moving from a utility-owned infrastructure to a municipal-owned infrastructure, you don't have maintenance set up. You don't have people to do maintenance. You don't have bucket trucks. So we offer that service. We built this application here that you see, which makes it really easy to coordinate with the municipality. Essentially, we'll give you this app and you'll receive a phone call. Hey, we got a light out on this street. You'll click, one click, indicating what's wrong with the light. You'll send it to us, and that's it. We have a case number that's open. We follow it from there. We manage the local contractor. We manage any returns, RMA, return of merchandise, and warranties. It's all quite resource-free from the municipality. You won't have to build up any resources for maintenance once you take over the streetlights. So that's it. We have a bunch of other value added services, but in the interest of time, I think I'll stop it here and leave it open for questions.
Thank you, Paul.
Paul, I had a question on the timing of the audit, especially in terms of the O&R quote that we received only being good for, I believe, 6 months. And I think that expires in June. I'd have to get the letter. Yeah, we got the quote December 21st of last year. So is
So
that?
if we engaged with you quickly, it would have to be rather quickly. We'd be able to complete. So when we talk about the audit, remember we have first the physical audit, which we can complete in about a week's time, 1 to 2 weeks, and then there's the investment grade audit. So the difference between the two, the physical audit then gives us all of the data to be able to reconcile back with O&R any differences in inventory. And that's, I think, Barry, to your question, that's what's important for you to finalize your acquisition. The investment grade audit gives you all the numbers that you'll need if you want to finance the project or if you just want more certainty before you make a decision on moving forward completely on the project, right? So the former we can have done in 2 weeks. The latter, the investment grade audit, takes about 3 months or so.
I thought that, I'm looking at the letter now, I thought there was some stipulation that we had, that basically the price was only good for 6 months and that we couldn't have another price for a year after that. Something.
Right. So what we would recommend, Barry, and this is the same, with all of the projects that we've done. What we would recommend is we go out, we do the physical audit, we do the reconciliation. Then you have certainty on what those numbers of lights are. We go back to O&R, we finalize that, and now you can comfortably move forward with the next step, which is giving O&R your approval on the buyback.
Okay.
Then I believe that there's a 6-month period from that point on with the Public Service Commission. It's really a technicality, but they have to publish it in case anybody is opposed to the buyback, and they take 6 months to do that.
We do have our streetlights already in a GIS system, so that may assist you to some degree.
That's always helpful. So that'll be the first thing that we'll do is to ask you for that GIS data that you have. But we'll still want to come and verify it because I'm pretty certain that you're not collecting all the data points that we would collect to give you proper lighting.
Definitely not. We've got the basics, where it is, I think what the pole number is, and some information relative to the type of light and the length of the Cobra arm.
Yep.
Paul, I had a question. How do you assess if an area is overlit, underlit, any of those parameters?
So the IES, which is the governing body for roadway lighting in North America, and we actually sit on several of their different committees, they recommend, and mind you, there's no mandated lighting requirements in North America, but their strong recommendation is to use RP8. So RP8, it's a fairly sophisticated photometric guideline platform, which, and I'm not going to go into all the details, but what they call, for example, bug ratings, which is backlighting and uplighting and glare, those are determined based on certain characteristics, several of which I had mentioned before: pole spacing, height of the pole, and whatnot. So They make changes in that every year. They made some changes last year, so we're using RPA 20 now. Before that, it was RPA 18, and before that, RPA 14. That's what we use, and we're looking to optimize your lighting, based on the characteristics, incorporating whatever local information you give us. So you may tell us, you know what, we understand you're using RPA, but at this particular intersection or at this particular park, we want you to err a little bit on the overlit side or the underlit side. So we'll take that into consideration, right? Always within safety guidelines. So when we're looking at safety, you're looking at eliminating dark spots, right? So we run simulations with vehicular traffic based on speed limits, and we can reduce or eliminate those dark spots as that vehicle is moving from pole to pole, right?
Okay, thank you. The other question I had was, is the town, do they have a maintenance contract with you?
So you're not obligated. Many of our clients do contract from us ongoing maintenance, and we'll, not on this call, but we can have a subsequent call where I can actually show you what that maintenance platform looks like. Actually, I can show you now if you want, if you have a few minutes, or we can save it for the end. But it's very simple. As I mentioned before, you'll have the platform. However you want calls to come in from constituents, either via email or your website or a phone call, however you work that out. You'll get the phone call, you'll go to our platform, you'll essentially click. It'll be one click indicating to us where the problem is, and then we take it from there. We establish a case number. We'll have a report which you can access, so you can see exactly what the status is on any lights that have been reported or are under maintenance. And then we manage everything from soup to nuts, including your warranties and return of merchandise. We'll have the appropriate number of fixtures at different wattage levels locally in inventory, so that if and when you need a replacement, it'll be quick.
My question, though, is specifically the town of Warwick, who you've contracted with. Do they have a maintenance contract?
I should have known the answer to that prior to this. I'll have to check. I'm not sure.
Curious.
I will check on that.
They're not self-performing, I know that. So they have a contract with someone.
Yeah, I'll check if it's with us or not. I'm not sure.
Okay.
The advantage of doing it through us rather than directly with your local contractor is managing your local contractor. So local contractors, again, I'm not bashing anybody, but habitually they're not being as efficient as they possibly can. So if they can send a bucket truck out, on Tuesday, and then send another bucket truck out on Friday to replace another light of yours. If we're doing it, we're going to aggregate those lights. We're going to do it in the most efficient manner to reduce your maintenance costs. And we'll be on top of the contractor saying, hey, why is it you sent the bucket truck out 4 days after you did the last replacement? That's not the most efficient way to do this.
What are the usual terms of the contract? Are they yearly?
Typically yearly. We have two options, right? So we can do an open book contract. So it's a similar way that we work with you on the project, where we get again, the percentages are the same. It's 20% of whatever the labor and materials are. Materials essentially for the first 10 years will be zero, because your photocells and your luminaires, which are the two material components, they're both warranted for 10 years. So should there be any failures, the manufacturers replace the materials at no cost. When we look at ongoing maintenance costs for LED streetlights, we're just talking about labor. So we get compensated based on 20% cost plus of whatever those labor costs are.
Thank you.
And those aren't your employees. They're a contractor that's working for you.
Yes, Barry, and typically, it makes sense for us at least to consider whoever it is that we select to do the installation, to do the ongoing maintenance, because they're now intimately familiar with your streetlight network and any of the wiring issues and whatnot. So it often makes sense to have them subcontracted to do the ongoing maintenance.
And then relative to the smart controls, you were talking about how Massachusetts already passed legislation. So if I understand it correctly, and I know that, you know, right now we're paying O&R on the basis of the fixture that we have at a tariff that's established. So if in the future, the smart controls would be able to return to the utility information as to how much energy we were using so that it would basically serve as a meter for that individual light, and then everything would be aggregated to determine what the bill would be.
And that would have to be mandated by New York State Public Service Commission, which they haven't done yet. But what happened in Massachusetts, 60 or 70% of the municipalities in Massachusetts have converted to LED over the last 6 or 7 years. And a good percentage of those over the last 2 or 3 years have incorporated streetlights. So once there's critical mass, and we envision this is going to be happening in New York, when there's that critical mass, then there's pressure on the Public Service Commission. Hey, look, we've got all these municipalities that have incorporated smart controls. Why is it that we can't take advantage of not just energy savings, but dollar savings if we have this technology? And then it'll be incumbent upon the Public Service Commission to go back to O&R and Grid and RGE and everybody else and say, hey, look, guys, now is the time. Meter your lights so your clients can now save money and not just energy. Can't guarantee when that's going to happen. Trends have been once there's a critical mass that eventually happens.
But we would be in a position to not have to do anything further if that were to take place, because if we had the smart control.
And the service benefits would be there. And as I mentioned, the biggest feedback that we're getting from our clients is more on the qualitative side, more than saving money. It's the ability to be able to customize your lighting and to react to constituent complaints. Shockingly enough, not everybody in Warwick is going to be enamored with your new lighting levels and your new LED lights. And so you will get that occasional call from somebody, hey, you know, we want a little bit less lumens here on the street late at night. And you'll be able to do that very, very quickly and painlessly.
I don't believe I have any more questions for Paul.
I'm okay. George, do you have any questions for Paul?
No, I think you did a great job explaining it, and a couple of questions that Barry had answers mine, so we're good.
Okay, very good. Paul, thank you.
Feel free, everybody, if there's some questions you haven't thought of today and they occur to you, send me an email, give me a call. We're happy to help. I assume maybe somebody's spoken with your town, with Mike.
Yeah, I've been in touch with Mike on it.
He was really good in the sense that a lot of folks that we worked with, they weren't responsive, or they just we had to be on top of them to get the project moving. We're going to move this project very, very quickly. However, the biggest impediment to the project is usually waiting for the response back from the municipality. So I said before, we're expecting you to have some input at the front end. We'll also expect some input from you once we've completed all our photometric designs and the audit. We're going to send that back to you and say, hey guys, is everything good here? There's often some outlying lights or two which are we're uncertain of the ownership, if they're private or they belong to you. because of the mapping and everything else, it's not entirely clear. So there'll be a conversation with you when we go through reconciliation to O&R. So to the extent that you're prompt in responding to that, this project will move along quickly.
I did have one other thing. Right now, we're still undecided as to whether we want to fund the capital costs and handle them internally, or whether we want to use what financial package or presentation that would come through Real Term. The quote that you gave us today, does that, which of those options does that take into account?
So the most common vehicle for financing these projects has been the tax exempt lease. Interest rates, I know they've been creeping up recently. You know, they'll be in the 2 to 3% range based on your bond rating and you know, and where interest rates are at that time. Terms, you've got a 5.2-year payback, so we could do a 7 or a 10-year lease term with you. Your savings amply will exceed whatever those lease payments would be. So there'd be zero capital outlay, and you'd have positive cash flow from year one. One of the advantages of the tax exempt lease is you don't have to make your first payment until 1 year after you sign the lease contract. So you've got several months of savings that you've accumulated now to, you know, to be able to, again, comfortably make those lease payments and still have positive cash flow. If you like, I'll send a request out to MLC, their municipal lease consultants out of Vermont. They've done north of $1 billion of municipal energy lease contracts. They've been around for 27 years or so. We like them because they're competitive, and they're not a giant financing shop, so their service has been really good. We've gotten great feedback from our clients. We don't make any money on the lease. We're an intermediary. We'll introduce you. We'll do all the follow-ups with MLC, but they're our third-party leasing partner for these projects. So if you like, I'll ask them for a quote, because I know interest rates, you know, have been changing. I'll show you what the numbers look like. Those quotes are valid for 30 days. Doesn't mean you have to lock into a lease agreement in 30 days. Just means that those interest rates may change.
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind moving forward with that, that would be great, Paul.
Okay. And if you like, would you like me to base the project numbers on with smart controls or without smart controls?
I believe with smart controls, I think that really gives us an added advantage,
Okay.
especially in the long term.
And you'll know if for whatever reason you want to take them out, but just the project costs will be lower and lease payments will be lower.
We do have some non-standard ornamental lighting in one of the neighborhoods. It's over 55 community, planned adult community, and they aren't included in the 461. They're a separate system. I get, when you do the audits, would you be including them as well, so that we can factor that into the equation as to what we might need and want to do?
Yes, typically any outdoor lights that you would consider for the project, be it another community like you said, or maybe there's some parking areas which you want to have a look at. We'll audit everything, and it would make sense for us to do it while we're on the ground, and then you can decide later on what you want to incorporate or not into the project. We'll do the calculations on what the cost to convert those decorative fixtures would be, and they'll be higher than the Cobra head fixtures for sure. But we'll show you what those different numbers look like, and then you can pick and choose what you want to incorporate in the final project.
And Paul, to that, in certain places in the village, there are, beyond streetlights, there are lights that, for example, we have a light that illuminates Village Hall, but it's from the street, it's from from the pole. And there are a few of those throughout the community. Would they be part of the audit as well?
They would be, yeah. Again, we'll have a discussion on that before we get started. But any outdoor lights that you would want us to consider and have a look at, we'll incorporate those.
Okay. Gentlemen, any other questions for Paul?
Nope.
No. Paul, thank you so much. We appreciate your time, and it was very, very succinct, very clear, and we'll get back to you.
All right, thank you for your time, and have a nice long weekend if you've got one ahead of you.
Thank you.
Thank you, you too.
Okay.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Mayor, would you like a motion to adjourn?
We have a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye,
Bye.
Thank you.
good.
Have a good Easter, everyone.